On 5 News, let down by the government. The parents of a toddler who died from meningitis a year ago. Faye Burdette's dad says their campaign to stop others suffering has been ignored.
It's just heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking because it does so much damage, so much and so quickly.
Also on the programme, our food and fuel are getting more expensive, but is it changing how we shop? A blast from the past. The steam train returns to our railways for the first time in 50 years. And Naomi Harris tells 5 News how it feels to be nominated for the top prize in Hollywood.
God, that sounds so weird.
Do you like the ring to it?
I love it, I still don't associate it with myself. I'm like, really?
Welcome to 5 News. I'm Danny Sinha. It was a tragic story that touched the nation and put pressure on the government to vaccinate more children against meningitis B. But a year on from Faye Burdette's death, her parents have accused ministers of doing nothing. Faye died 11 days after contracting the disease. Well, a harrowing picture of her in hospital prompted hundreds of thousands of people to sign a petition calling for the jab programme to be widened out. Her father told us instead they have been let down. Well, just a warning, our chief correspondent Tessa Chapman's report contains the image of Faye in hospital, which you may find distressing.
Faye Burdette hadn't been vaccinated against meningitis B. It was introduced for newborn babies when she was 2, so she didn't qualify. But she contracted the deadly disease, and on this day last year, her parents agreed to switch off her life support machine.
I don't think there are words to describe how you feel. Helpless. That's probably one of the main ones. There's just nothing you can do. It's just heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking because it does so much damage, so much and so quickly.
It's hard to look at, but Faye's parents released this photo because they wanted people to take notice. The image prompted more than 800,000 people to sign a petition calling for a vaccine for all children, not just newborns.
We were told that it was meningitis.
With grief still raw, Neil and Jenny Burdette addressed MPs and felt hopeful they could make a change in Faye's name. Now a year's gone by, Neil told me they've been ignored.
I think they let us go through a system, feeling we were doing our bit. But it was just falling on deaf ears. I don't think anyone was really ever had a will or an intention to do anything.
Do you feel let down?
Yes, we do, yeah. I think maybe those 824,000 people should also feel a bit let down.
Charities are continuing the campaign and insist it's worth the cost.
Well, these days we see about 150 cases of meningococcal meningitis in the under 5s. Now, the new vaccine has had an impact in the under 1s, but we would estimate there's still 50 to 80 cases a year that could be prevented.
That Faye's death might have been avoidable causes her parents great pain, but they don't regret speaking out. Their family tragedy has made more people aware of meningitis B, which does bring them some comfort.
Tessa, what is the current situation then with this vaccine?
Well, the government says they're making important progress. More than 1 million babies have been vaccinated since 2015. But what Faye's parents want is a catch-up programme, so all under 5s are protected now. There is a review underway, but there's no indication that is going to happen. The government has already implied that it's just not cost-effective. Now, Faye's parents are also waiting for a promised awareness campaign, so people are more aware of the signs and symptoms of meningitis and sepsis, which can both be caused by the bacteria. Now, early signs can be very similar to flu. More specific symptoms are fever with cold hands and feet, drowsiness, blotchy skin, the rash, which many of us do already know about, but is actually a very late symptom, sometimes doesn't appear at all. It is so important to be well informed on this. If you want any more advice at all, people can go to our Facebook page.
Good advice. Thank you very much, Tessa. The cost of living is going up at its fastest rate for 2.5 years. It's mainly down to the rising cost of fuel, but there is a warning for the coming months as well. Many businesses have been paying far more to import raw materials, so it won't be long before they have to put up their own prices. Here's Layla Hayes.
So, welcome to Maltby Greek. This is our central London, south of London warehouse.
This wholesaler supplies Greek food and drink to more than 30 shops and restaurants. The fall in the pound post-Brexit means importing goods from Greece now costs more. So far, the company hasn't been passing on the extra costs to customers, but that's about to change.
We're looking to raise prices anything between 5 and 7%. So that's kind of finding a middle ground between the 17% drop on the exchange rate and absorbing some, passing some of that loss to the restaurants in effect.
But that's something you feel you have to do now?
Well, we have to, because otherwise we like a lot of other businesses will have to go bust.
Inflation at 1.8% is now at its highest rate for 2.5 years, and the Bank of England expects it to keep on growing.
The falling pound and rising import costs means many businesses have been feeling the pinch, but they're now having to put up prices, which means we, as consumers, will feel it too.
Food prices are no longer falling, and that, along with the rising cost of fuel, has pushed inflation up.
There are fears that wages will remain stagnant, growing at 2–2.5%, but prices could tick up. Inflation could tick up to 3%, and that's when it hurts ordinary Britons.
In the market, they're already feeling it.
They're making things smaller, but they're putting the prices up.
Going up rapidly. Yeah, it's too much.
You can spend £20, you used to go and get a lot of stuff, now it's less.
The price rises are now starting to be felt. What's still unclear is how painful it's going to get. Layla Hayes, 5 News.
Investigations taking place after a 10-year-old boy died in an incident in a shopping centre in Reading. The boy suffered serious head injuries in the incident, which involved a display barrier inside Topshop yesterday afternoon. Well, police say they're not treating it as suspicious. And the half-brother of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is reported to have been assassinated in Malaysia. Kim Jong-nam is said to have been poisoned at an airport in the capital, Kuala Lumpur. He fled North Korea after being passed over for leadership of the country in 2011. Now, his presidency has already been very controversial. Now, another major scandal is surrounding Donald Trump. This time it's because of his most senior security advisor. Well, Michael Flynn has been forced to quit over claims he illegally discussed sensitive issues with Russia before he even got the job. Our political editor, Andy Bell, has the story.
Last week, the FBI on Friday...
He was one of Donald Trump's early champions and one of the president's very first appointments. But now General Mike Flynn has been forced to quit as National Security Advisor. General Flynn was caught out talking privately to the Russian ambassador. And then he misled the vice president by claiming he hadn't talked about lifting sanctions. Leaked phone intercepts proved that he had.
National security is perhaps the most important function or responsibility a president has. And I think the president made the right decision to ask for his resignation. You cannot have a national security advisor misleading the vice president and others.
General Flynn was known to have very close links to the Kremlin. He'd even sat next to President Putin at a Moscow dinner. But President Trump seems more concerned about how the story came to light. Tweeting this morning, "The real story here is why are there so many illegal leaks coming out of Washington? Will these leaks be happening as I deal on North Korea, etc.?" At the weekend, the President and the First Lady hosted the Prime Minister of Japan in Florida when news of a North Korean missile test came through. Pictures taken by other diners show the president and his advisors round the table in a public restaurant at Donald Trump's country club. And according to witnesses, they loudly worked out their response. To some veteran White House watchers, this is all raising fears about his approach to national security.
There seems to be a lack of that kind of connection to the real people who can get things done in Washington, including the National Security Advisor, which is quite a shame.
I, Stephen Mnuchin, do solemnly swear.
Last night, the president swore in his Treasury Secretary, but it's a new National Security Advisor he needs, and fast.
Well, Andy is in Westminster now, and Andy, business as usual for Donald Trump, and he's even been talking to Theresa May this evening, I believe.
Yes, the President was due to call Theresa May at 4:30. I'm told that the President requested and initiated that call. We don't know what the content of that call is yet. One clue may be that this afternoon the North Korean ambassador here was summoned to the Foreign Office, presumably for addressing down about that test of the missile at the weekend. So we should hear what the content of that call was later. Maybe they will talk about President Trump's visit later this year, because today Number 10 has confirmed that despite 1.8 million people signing a petition to try and stop that visit, Donald Trump will be, in their words, extended the full courtesy of a state visit to the UK later this year.
Andy, thank you very much. The Queen has officially opened a £2 billion centre that's aimed at protecting the UK from cyber attacks. She was shown around the National Cyber Security Centre, which was set up to tackle increasing threats from around the world. Well, as Warren Nettleford now reports, it's everything from our personal details to our national safety that's at risk.
The new agents of modern warfare hide behind lines of computer code. The governments say our vital infrastructure is increasingly under threat from cyber attack. Hackers acting for foreign governments and international terror groups even targeting the technology in our homes. But welcome to Britain's fight back and the imposing headquarters of the government's new cyber security centre. The hope, Britain as a global leader fighting hackers through using intelligence know-how to protect businesses.
What we're trying to do here is get some of that brilliant skill set out into business and industry so that we can help them to build the defences that they need, help them to manage incidents when they occur, making sure that the UK is the safest and most effective place to do digital business.
The Cyber Security Centre say 60 Category 2, so less critical attacks like those on internet service providers, are attempted against the UK each month. Although we haven't faced the most serious attack yet, where personal details on a mass scale are compromised or serious threats to our infrastructure, decision makers say they're not complacent.
What's really important is that we protect both our national security interests from those big attacks that we've seen and read about in other countries, but also that we make sure people are confident when they're shopping online, when they're working online. And so there's an awful lot we can do to protect people automatically from those basic crimes as well as from the top level attacks.
Mustafa Al-Bassam can speak with authority on the government's plans. As a former hacker who managed to infiltrate some of the biggest global corporations, he says this new body wouldn't have stopped him trying, but maybe succeeding.
More and more of our devices and systems are being connected to the internet. We've got smart homes with smart fridges and smart washing machines, and now we've got more serious things being connected to the internet, like our power systems and power plants and water supply systems. So all of those things could have a serious consequence if they're not secured properly.
Almost £2 billion has been invested to tackle cyber threats in the last year. The coordinated fight back against our adversaries is stepping up. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Well, coming up on 5 News, a return to the age of steam. We take a ride on the first timetable steam train for 50 years. And Naomi Harris tells 5 News why she thinks the Oscars should be political. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. The leader of UKIP, Paul Nuttall, has admitted that claims he lost close personal friends in the Hillsborough disaster aren't true. The claims appear on his own website. Well, he was questioned about them today on a radio show in Liverpool. Well, Catherine Jones joins me now. What's this all about, Catherine?
Well, this all relates to claims that Paul Nuttall has made in the past about being closely connected to the Hillsborough disaster. He says that he was there, he was 12 at the time, and that he was taken there by his uncles and his dad. And he said on his website in an entry posted 5 years ago, he called Hillsborough that appalling tragedy when 96 Liverpool fans, including close personal friends of mine, lost their lives. Now, today in an interview on Liverpool radio station Radio City Talk, he was challenged on that and admitted that statement was false.
I'm sorry, I haven't lost anyone who was a close personal friend. There's people who I knew through football and things like that. I haven't. It's your own quote. I haven't put that out in my. That is wrong.
It's also been alleged that Mr Nuttall wasn't even at Hillsborough at all, but today in the same interview he angrily said that he was.
You know, I was there on that day. I've got witnesses, people who will stand up in court and back me 100%. Okay, and it's cruel and it's nasty and it's making out as if my family are lying as well, which is it's just not fair or right.
As a man who has recently taken on this very high-profile position, the head of UKIP after Nigel Farage, what Mr Nuttall is learning is that, like all high-profile positions, every statement, every utterance, no matter how long ago, is going to be scrutinised.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. The engine-making company Rolls-Royce has announced some of the biggest losses ever in the UK. Last year it lost more than £4.6 billion. It was caused by a combination of the fall in the value of the pound and by having to pay fines because of a corruption scandal. A relic of the railways has made a return to the tracks today. The first timetabled steam train service for 50 years set off on time for a journey along one of Britain's most scenic routes. While to some its return has been long overdue. Peter Lane went along to North Yorkshire and hitched a ride.
Turning back time on one of Britain's most beautiful railway lines, a steam locomotive, the Tornado, crosses North Yorkshire's famous Ribblehead Viaduct. Half a century after they stopped, scheduled mainline services under steam are back. It's to mark the reopening of a section of track damaged by storms last year and takes passengers back to yesteryear.
Absolutely fantastic. I've been waiting 50 years for this.
It's really cool. Well, this is my Valentine's Day treat.
Romance. We like a bit of romance.
Yeah, a bit of romance, going back to the old days.
Northern Rail are going back to the old days for 3 days only. For trained staff like the conductors who work this route, it's something out of the ordinary.
Oh, it's brilliant, really. It's just being able to sort of imagine what it was like in the past, in the heyday of the steam age on the Settle Car line, a really iconic railway line.
Well, this may be a normal timetabled passenger service, but the sound of the locomotive, the whistle there, the sight and the smell of the steam makes it anything but.
The £3 million Tornado locomotive itself is relatively new, built with donations from train enthusiasts who'd love to see it pair up with other rail companies around the UK. I was briefly allowed onto the footplate for a word with the driver.
It's a big privilege to be part of something like this. I usually drive freight trains over this route. If somebody told me I was doing this, I'd be doing this now. When I was 10 years old, I wouldn't have believed them, you know.
When this stretch of railway line opened in 1876, who could have imagined what train travel would look like in 2017? Well, for now at least, it looks wonderfully just like it did back then. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Finally, she's one of our big hopes for an Oscar. Now Naomi Harris has told 5 News how she almost missed out on the chance of a nomination. Well, she's up for Best Supporting Actress for her role in Moonlight, a film she nearly turned down. Well, she also says when the ceremony comes around later this month, her mum will be the starstruck one. Well, she's been speaking to Millie Stevenson.
Harris, the North London girl whose performance in downtown Miami has earned the actress her first ever Oscar nomination.
He usually can take care of himself.
But playing Paula, a drug addict, in the film Moonlight was a role the star very nearly didn't take. Speaking to 5 News ahead of the ceremony, the actress told me she's now not only glad she did, but it's all still sinking in.
Naomi Harris, Oscar-nominated actress. Lovely to see you.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so weird.
Do you like the ring to it?
I love it.
I think
but I still don't associate it with myself. I'm like, really?
No, I think from now on everybody should always address you like that.
Great, I'm down with that.
Yeah, you up for it?
Yeah.
And Naomi says the Oscars in just under 2 weeks' time is the perfect platform to get political. After last year's controversy when not one black or ethnic minority actor was nominated.
The amount of scripts that I read where it says, you know, character description and then white, or character description and then black. And I just think, why? You know, why do we have to limit? Surely we just want the attributes that character is supposed to have. It doesn't matter what colour they are.
Is it a frustrating industry to work in that respect? Is it kind of like you're not just an actress, you're a black actress?
I mean, it's tough in that sense, but then it's also exciting, you know, because I think it's part of my job, not just to get roles, but also to be breaking down boundaries.
And if you're wondering who Naomi's plus one will be at this year's Oscars, it's her mum, Carmen, the woman she told me she owes everything to.
I grew up with a really strong mother. You know, my mum had me when she was 18 years old, and she raised me. You know, she was a single parent. Grew up on benefits, but at 5 years old, my mum always said that she was going to go to university and she was going to educate herself and turn her life around, and she did exactly that.
We can also confirm there is one celebrity the star's most hoping to meet in LA. It's Oprah Winfrey.
I'm not going to be cool about it. I'm just going to go, if she's there, I'm just going to be like, Oprah, oh my God. I'm going to get down on my hands and knees, start bowing, you know, really uncool on the red carpet.
We have a feeling when Naomi Harris arrives at the Oscars, there will be an army of fans bowing down to her, too. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Well, that's about it from us for now. I'm back at 6:30 with 5 News tonight, when we'll be talking about controversial plans which could prevent military personnel from suing the Ministry of Defence for negligence. And, of course, we will be talking about Valentine's Day. It is supposed to be the most romantic day of the year. Well, we'll be asking, where did it actually come from and what does it mean to you?
It's just being around people that I love and that love me back, so...
I buy her things, she don't buy me nothing, but that's how it goes, isn't it? You know what I mean? All one way.
There we go, more of that at 6:30. That's it from us. Claire Nazir, though, has the weather next, and I'll see you again in an hour. See you later. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.